On this episode of Geek Dad Life, we're going to review the new Ghostbusters Afterlife Transformers Ectotron Ecto-1 by Hasbro. Hey everybody, and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host, Jay Gladfelter here. I plan to review as much of the Ghostbusters Afterlife merchandise as possible, so be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and click on that bell icon to be notified when those episodes drop. After nearly a year of waiting, Hasbro is finally starting to release their toys for Ghostbusters Afterlife. With the Playskool Hero Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the Kenner Classics Ghost Popper, this Transformers crossover Ectotron, and the 1/18th scale Plasma Series Ecto-1 hitting toy shelves. While we still don't know when we're going to get the full-on retail release of the Ghostbusters Afterlife toys from Hasbro, it is nice to get these Target and Walmart exclusives hitting in the first month of the year. This Transformers Ectotron is a redecoed reissue nearly identical to its original release in 2019. The main changes being that more rusted look for the Ecto-1 that we're going to see in Ghostbusters Afterlife. We also have an additional companion ghost with Muncher, who we don't really know how much that character is going to be involved in the movie, but in terms of merchandising, he seems to be showing up in a lot of places. This set also includes a comic book, the first issue of the IDW Transformers Ghostbusters crossover event. So I think overall it's a neat package, some slight tweaks, and some additions that I do think make this a neat set to have. Starting with the packaging, it evokes that classic G1 Transformers style. It looks great, it really pops. I mean, it's iconic. It's hard to go wrong when you use that classic G1 grid style artwork. The overall size of the packaging is a lot bigger than the first release to accommodate for the comic book, as well as Ectotron being in his robot form. We have a nice insignia in the upper left-hand corner that signifies this collaboration between Transformers and Ghostbusters in the year 2021. And we have great updated artwork of the Ecto-1 to kind of showcase its more rusty afterlife look. The left-hand side of the packaging shows real pictures of the robot form and vehicle mode for Ectotron, and we also have Slimer and Muncher on there as well. On the back of the card, we have that classic full-on G1 fight between the Decepticons and the Autobots, and then we also have our very own file card for Ectotron. So it's a really neat file card. Again, if you're a fan of G1 Transformers and Ghostbusters, Hasbro is going all out to hit both of those nostalgic buttons for you. Taking this robot out of the packaging, I really wanted to see what were the paint differences between the first release and the second release. And to be honest, I really like the changes here. You know, there's a lot of concerns I have with some of the Afterlife Ectos having too much rust and stuff like that. The rust here is very light, and the actual changes they made to the robot mode, I think, improved the look of Ectotron. You know, I didn't get the original one because I thought the robot form was kind of boring, but when I have this one, and it looks much better to my eye, and it's very slight, subtle changes that they've made. So the front breastplate, instead of being beige, it is in a silver color. Now I get why they did beige to make it look like he has a flight suit, but I really like this silver here. It actually makes him look more like a robot, which I think I'm perfectly fine with. I don't need to be hit over the head that he's supposed to be like a Ghostbuster Transformer, and I think in robot mode it looks a lot better. There's also changes to the head sculpt itself. We have more paint application on his Ecto goggles with a little bit of extra attachments, and I believe the face mask is a little bit different as well, and I think it looks better. Now, I would have loved, after reading the comic, to have him with the visors up. Probably wouldn't fit as well, but I think his eyes look really cool underneath those Ecto goggles. So that would be neat if we could have had that look to this figure, since the previous one already had the Ecto goggles down. But overall, I think the updated head sculpt looks really good. And then the other paint changes I think come across really well. Overall, I like the look of this Ectotron in robot mode a lot more than the first release. Looking at Ectotron's accessories, the Muncher and Slimer figures are cool little kind of gummy ghosts. They're translucent. If you have the first version of Ectotron, the Slimer is nearly identical to that one. And then the Muncher follows very similarly in style and size and feel. And they're just neat little ghosts. And I love how they can both rest on Ectotron's shoulders. Ectotron's Proton Pack doubles as the Ecto-1's roof rack, and while it can be difficult for accessories to pull double duty, I think it's pretty effective here. I think it looks good as a Proton Pack and when it is in roof rack mode. The only nitpick I'll put here is that when it is in Proton Pack mode, it's on the back. It looks kind of small compared to what a Proton Pack would normally look like on a Ghostbuster. Minor nitpick, again, I like how it's not just trying to be exactly a Ghostbuster, it's Ectotron, he's his own character, but still just something of note when looking at this in its robot mode. In robot mode, Ectotron stands about 7 inches tall, and while in the comics, the Ecto-1 Ectotron is much bigger than the human Ghostbusters, I think it scales okay with the 5.5-inch scaled Afterlife Fright Features figures, which are still yet to be released. But if you're displaying the Ectotron with those, I think it looks pretty good. Whenever I buy a modern Transformers, there's always this kind of acclimation period to the transformation process and getting it all to work just right, and this one was no different for me. It took me a little while to figure out that the back door would open out to kind of fully make the feet work, because it didn't come that way out of the box. The Proton Pack took me a while to figure out how to clip it on, and even the transformation took a little bit of work, but it actually wasn't that hard at all. As far as modern Transformers go, I've had much more difficult experiences with other figures in the past. So the transformation was pretty easy to get it from robot mode to car mode, back to robot mode. So if you're kind of a novice to Transformers, that shouldn't be too much of a negative here for you. It's really not too hard. Ectotron in the Ecto-1 vehicle mode looks pretty good. I mean, it seems honestly a little small when it is in vehicle mode compared to the robot mode, and that is by design. But overall, it's a pretty good model and likeness of the Ecto-1. There's a lot of brake lines throughout all of it, which does detract from the vehicle mode versus the robot mode. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. I also think it's nice, just for my own eyes, that they didn't go super heavy with the rust. It's really only on the front end of the car, and then it's also on the logo. There's just kind of a distressed and cracked Ghostbusters logo, but even that isn't hitting you over the head. So if you have concerns that this would look like way too run down, it won't look that nice in vehicle mode, I think it still looks like the iconic Ecto-1 that we all know and love. And then we also have the transition of moving the ladder from the left side of the car to the right side of the car to accommodate the Gunner Seat edition that we're going to have in Ghostbusters Afterlife, but there is no actual Gunner Seat action figure, as that would get lost in this Transformer. After passing on the original Ectotron, I'm really happy I picked it up this time. I think the updated head sculpt, the new deco, just make this robot mode that much more appealing to me, and I really dig it, especially when I have it standing with my Fright Features Afterlife figures. I think it looks really great. I think including the comic book added to the experience for me as well. Kind of getting to see, how they fit in this character into both the Transformers universe as well as the Ghostbusters universe. Even though it's like a crossover that's not in true canon, the inclusion of the comic book endeared Ectotron to me a lot more than I originally thought was possible. This set is pricey, coming in at $59.99. Transformers are generally not cheap items, so I feel like that dings it a little bit, but overall, I'm gonna give this Ectotron the Geek Dad Life buy rating. I think the improved sculpt and deco, as well as the inclusion of the comic book and the Muncher Ghost, I think make this of value. Even if maybe you have the original Ectotron, I think there's still enough here that make it a worthwhile purchase. Definitely check out some of my other Ghostbusters Afterlife reviews. I've reviewed the Play School Heroes Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, as well as the Fright Features Ghostbusters figures that still haven't been released. I'll see you all next time. Hasta luego, and goodbye.